Student Recruitment Officer with the Office of Student Recruitment at Memorial. And we're the ones that are responsible for promoting Memorial's undergraduate programs to prospective students and their influencers, like parents and guidance counselors. We do that through a variety of forms. We do it virtually with email and social media. But we also, of course, travel to go and go to visit schools and participate in education fairs throughout the province, across the country, and around the world. When I was initially approached to do a presentation this evening, the first thing that came to mind were all the pictures that I have from my time on the road, looking out hotel room windows. International recruiting isn't always as glamorous as it may seem. I do spend a lot of time in hotel rooms and on planes and airports and cars and on trains between appointments. It definitely isn't a vacation when you're traveling abroad. But at any rate, I did manage to find some photos that I'm going to share with you tonight with the point of giving you some tips for making this type of whirlwind business travel a bit more productive and perhaps more enjoyable as well. So first off, an obvious point, do your research. It should go without saying, but read up on the places, history, culture, customs, political climate. Find out if you need a visa or any special inoculations. And find a few activities you might like to do with your spare time. These guidebooks are pretty helpful too. Make sure you have your documents near at hand. Don't forget your passport in the hotel safe. And for that matter, for that very reason, don't even put it in the hotel safe. If you're traveling around India in particular, they won't let you into the airports unless you have an actual printout of your ticket. So that's something to keep in mind if you're in India. Sleep where you can. If you're on the other side of the world, a quick power nap between appointments will help you get through the day. But don't nap too much. When you first arrive, it's best to stay up to a reasonable hour for that time zone and get the best night's sleep that you can. Catch up on work where you can. The world doesn't stop while you're gone, so if you've got a spare moment to catch up on email or work on reports, you'll have a bit more time for yourself later. This is me alongside some other Canadian universities at a high school in Lima, Peru. Leave driving to the locals. It's not that other countries have crazy drivers, they just have a different set of rules for the road. For instance, in India, it's not your responsibility to check your blind spot, it's the other driver's responsibility to honk when you get in the way. And that's to say nothing of the cows that are all over the road. Be prepared for traffic. In cities like Jakarta and Dhaka, I've spent 2, 3, or 4 hours just stuck in traffic between appointments. Google Maps can be helpful for measuring distances, but not traffic time. So plan accordingly and have a cell phone to call ahead if you're going to be late. Remember that any part of the travel experience is the travel itself. That includes delays. It doesn't do any good to stress out over it, so find ways to relax anywhere. And enjoy the different forms of transportation. This is inside an auto rickshaw just outside of India Gate, you can see there in Delhi. Follow the locals, and I mean this literally. Crossing the street in Vietnam is one of the most harrowing experiences I've ever encountered. But as I've learned, the sea of motorcycles will swerve around you. Buses and trucks, not so much. Guard your wallet. We're all born to be on our guard about thieves and scams, but I've actually found that I'm my own worst enemy. In Latin America, I've lost several credit and debit cards just by leaving them in the ATMs, because the ATMs give you the card back only after they give you the cash and the receipt. Guard your cards. Learn some new words. I've always been amazed at the linguistic diversity we find in really small geographic regions. It's impossible to learn a bunch of languages before a big trip. But start with hello and thank you, and you'll be rewarded with appreciation for the effort. Greetings vary wildly around the world, especially between men and women. Do you shake hands, nod politely, kiss on one cheek? Depends on where you are. My best advice is to be observant, and if you're uncertain, maybe let the other party initiate the greeting. You may have heard that the thumbs up or OK symbols are vulgar in some countries, but that's only really a problem if you're particularly fond of those gestures. A useful tip to remember from Malaysia is that it's considered rude to point with your index finger, so instead you point with your thumb over a closed hand. Read the papers. They'll keep you up to date, give you some great conversation starters, lead to a greater understanding of local issues. They might explain why your hotel is advising you not to leave the premises that day. This happened to me last week in Bangladesh where they were having a national strike. But you might also find yourself in there too. So there you go. On even the busiest business trip, you still have to eat. And food is really one of the best parts of international travel. The ceviche in Peru, churrasco in Brazil, pho in Vietnam, Penang laksa in Malaysia, gado-gado in Indonesia, and the richest of dal makhnis in India have been some of my favorites. Sticking with food, if you're not sure what to order, ask for advice. Your server will only be too happy to make some suggestions and even help assemble your meal. This is in Hanoi. And if you're done experimenting and you still want to that's okay too. There are Western options to be found. They may not have the Big Mary, but Mary Brown serves both fried chicken and chicken porridge throughout Southeast Asia and the Middle East. We're always told to stick to bottled water, but which are the good ice cubes? And what do you make of the fact that Singapore Airlines provides paper cups next to its unpotable drink? Maybe just don't drink the water. If you press an unfamiliar button in a toilet, expect a surprise. In fact, you're likely to encounter a few surprises in public locations. Bring some tissues and some hand sanitizer and hope for the best. Look for windows of opportunity in your schedule to do something interesting. If you've got a layover in Hong Kong, for instance, the Nanking Village and Tiantin Buddha statue are just a cable car ride away from the airport. And the monastery there serves a delicious lunch as well. And finally, my best advice is to leave a place feeling content that you've left something to see the next time you visit.